Good morning. How are you doing today? I hope you're well, and I want to thank you for joining me as we continue our journey through the book of Micah. Now, today we're going to jump to chapter 4 of Micah. Yesterday we read chapters 1 and 2, and we realized that as a contemporary of Isaiah and Hosea, and speaking to the northern tribes, that Micah had a lot of things to say that were very hard to hear. We heard his call for judgment, and he heard that, quite frankly, he said that everything that he's saying is God's word. And it begins with this image of God himself entering and coming down, and his wrath being known as mountains melt and the earth quakes. So there's this ferocity to the introduction to the book of Micah that sounds just like everything that we think of when we think of the prophets. We think of doom and gloom, we think of fire and brimstone. Well, it's all there, and we think of calling out the sins of a nation, and that's there as well. But that's only really half of the story as we've seen. And Micah fits that model as well. The other half is the hope of a new tomorrow, the promises of God for a people who turn to him, the promises of what he will do. And that's a good reminder. It's what he will do. It's not what might happen, but what he will do that we put our hope in. And so that's an important distinction, because some things might happen. He might turn his wrath away because the people repent. But then in each of these prophetic books as well, there is a certainty that there will come a day when there will be no need for repentance. It's been said over and over again, this messianic idea that there will come that perfect age, that golden age, when sin will be no more. So here in chapter 4, we look to that again. Micah lifts his eyes and takes a break from berating the people of Israel and warning them from sins that it seems like they're just not going to turn from. And he says, look, God's doing something beautiful. You can be a part of that. We need to hear that. We need to live that as well. I think that's the most important thing for each of us to grab hold of, is the fact that we're not just in this for ourselves, that this isn't just a personal me and God relationship, but we are part of something magnificent that God is building, where he's knitting us together into something glorious for his kingdom and for the world itself. And that's what chapter 4 is going to show us. And I'm going to read chapter 4 and a little bit of chapter 5, because just at the tail end of chapter 5, at the very beginning, I should say, of chapter 5, there's a couple of messianic verses that are going to sound very familiar to you. So let's read. It shall come to pass in the latter days that the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established as the highest of the mountains. And it shall be lifted up above the hills, and peoples shall flow to it. And many nations shall come and say, Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, that he may teach us his ways, and that we may walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. He shall judge between many peoples, and shall decide for strong nations far away. They shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. But they shall sit every man under his vine and under his fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. For the mouth of the Lord of hosts has spoken. For all the peoples walk, each in the name of its God, but we will walk in the name of the Lord our God forever and ever. In that day, declares the Lord, I will assemble the lame and gather those who have been driven away, and those whom I have afflicted. The lame I will make the remnant, and those who were cast off a strong nation. And the Lord will reign over them in Mount Zion from this time forth and forevermore. And you, O tower of the flock, hill of the daughter of Zion, to you it shall come. The former dominion shall come, kingship for the daughter of Jerusalem. Now why do you cry aloud? Is there no king in you? Has your counselor perished, the pain that seized you like a woman in labor? Writhe and groan, O daughter of Zion, like a woman in labor, for now you shall go out from the city and dwell in the open country. You shall go to Babylon, there you shall be rescued. There the Lord will redeem you from the hand of your enemies. Now many nations are assembled against you, saying, let her be defiled, let our eyes gaze upon Zion. But they do not know the thoughts of the Lord. They do not understand his plan, that he has gathered them as sheaves to the threshing floor. Arise and thresh, O daughter of Zion, for I will make your horn iron. I will make your hooves bronze. You shall beat into pieces many peoples, and shall devote their gain to the Lord, their wealth to the Lord of the whole earth. And then chapter 5. Now muster your troops, O daughter of troops. The siege is laid against us. With a rod they strike the judge of Israel on the cheek. But you, O Bethlehem Ephrathah, who are too little to be among the clans of Judah, from you shall come forth for me one who is to be ruler in Israel, whose coming forth is from of old, from ancient days. Therefore he shall give them up until the time when she who is in labor has given birth. Then the rest of his brothers shall return to the people of Israel, and he shall stand and shepherd his flock in the strength of the Lord, in the majesty and of the name of the Lord his God. And they shall dwell secure, for now he shall be great to the ends of the earth, and he shall be their peace. And that's where we'll end it. So as I look at this, there's really two things to look at, two major flowing thought patterns in this great song of celebration. The first is the thought pattern of this moment in 4 through 8. Is it 8? Where does he start? I'd say, 4 through chapter 4, verses 1 through 7 is really what it is. And this is the end of time eschatological, so when Christ is returned, glorious celebration. That day of peace that comes when there is no more war. And for a people constantly in fighting and constantly in warfare, this is a great call of hope. For us, it's a great call of hope. We still use this verse today frequently. They shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. They shall beat their swords into plowshares, and they shall sit each man under his vine and under his fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. It's this beautiful image of a people at peace, of everything that God intended the world to be like before sin disrupted us and our relationships with each other. It's this picture of peace for us, nations and families, where the best thing that we can do is to love and to care for the earth and to see it grow in fruitfulness. To where a fig tree and a vine are all you need. And you're just sitting there eating the fruit and drinking the wine of the vine, and it's a good life. And that's the fullness of the promise of God of peace. And that's a peace that we know is coming in Christ. That it is Christ who will bring about that reign of perfect peace over the kingdoms of the earth. And then he goes on, though, and we see him go on and specify more specifically in verses 8 through really to 5:4. He focuses in on Judah. Now remember, this is a letter to Israel. It's not a letter to Judah. But here he's talking to Zion. And that's of vital importance because Zion is the name of Jerusalem. So he's lifted his eyes and God is speaking in a different direction to the nation from which Micah came from. And he's speaking to them and he has words of warning as well as words of hope. Words that they're going to go through some hard times, that they'll be taken to Babylon, and that the Lord will protect them there and bring them back. And that the Lord will lift them up in a beautiful way. And not only that, but there's this hope that he brings in. And it's an interesting hope because we know the history. And so, of course, people read this and they thought that Israel would become this great nation. The great nation with a great king that would rule over the earth. And once again, they would become the new Assyria, this superpower. But that never happened after Israel came back to the promised land. After their exile, Jerusalem failed to be that kind of nation in any way, shape, or form. They really didn't even have any successful kings. So now when Christ comes, we see a different kind of kingship. We see one who is of the least, of the tribe Bethlehem of Ephrathah, little to be too little among the clans of Judah, from him who comes forth is literally one from ancient days. God himself. And he's the one who brings that healing to the nation. He's the one who shepherds his flock. So the language is an language of powerful kingship, though he is by all means the most powerful king. But he is the shepherd who blesses his flock and cares for them. And not only that, but he becomes their peace. And not only that, sorry, I'm just going on with all those not only that's, but it says that the rest of his brothers will return to the people of Israel. And guess who that is? That's you and me. That's the Gentiles who were added to the number of the church after Christ's ministry, after his life and his death and his resurrection from the dead. That Acts 15 moment when the church began to expand, we find out who the new Israel is, as Paul says. So here we have in Micah, in the midst of this message to Israel, we see a promise of hope for eternity. And we see a message of hope for Jerusalem that goes through the fire of exile to the coming Messiah. And this is, of course, the text in chapter 5, these verses here of Bethlehem of Ephrathah. That's the one that got the 3 wise men sent to, well, however many wise men there were. That's the one that got the wise men sent from Herod to Bethlehem. So we see that this clearly understood even then to be a messianic text in that day. For us, what do we need from this text? We need to be reminded that God's doing a wonderful work and we're a part of it. That we're being knit together into this beautiful kingdom in and through him. We need to be keeping our eyes fixed on Christ. Remembering that all of this doesn't happen through worldly powers and worldly strength, because the king who's coming is the least of these. And so he lifts up the hope of the hopeless and the poor. That's good news for us as well, because as they say, we are saved not because of how handsome we are and how strong we are, but because we recognize our brokenness and we turn to the only one who can heal broken people. Let's pray. Father, we praise you today and we thank you. We thank you as we continue this journey for your word. And I pray, Lord, that as we read it now and as we think about it and as these words go with us through the day, that you would help us to apply them to our lives, that they would be echoes of your truth and your power for us in the midst of a broken world. Give us confidence, give us understanding, and give us peace, I pray. Lord, we thank you for this day, and I thank you for each person who's joined me here. May your peace and your presence be with them. Amen. Well, thank you. God bless you all. I'll talk to you later.